recently I made a video talking about how Amazon and Google are going to be doing a stock split, and it's one of the biggest stock splits that we've seen in a long time. It's a 20-1, and I talked about the pros of potentially getting involved in these stock splits and what you could see happen to your portfolio. And little by little, we're inching closer to the day that this stock split actually takes place. For Google, it's in June. For Amazon, it's in July. So if you own just one single share of either one of those stocks, you could participate in that stock split, and it could be potentially life-changing for your investment portfolio. So in today's video, what I want to talk about is which one of these stocks did I choose? Because I did mention that I can only choose one of these investments. So we'll talk about which one I chose and why did I choose to go this route. But before we get into it, if you are interested in money news, figuring out more about the finance world and how to make it work for you, and ultimately just achieve those goals that you have financially, this is definitely the channel for you. So make sure that you smash that subscribe button and turn on the bell notification. Other than that, let's talk about which one we're deciding to go with moving forward. Since the announcement of the Google and Amazon stock split, I've had quite a bit of time to do some research on both companies, because if I only get to choose one, I want to make sure that I nail this and get it correctly. So both companies have been great in innovation. Both of them have seen growth like we've never seen on the New York Stock Exchange before. And either one of those investments you can't really go wrong with. And so this was a tricky decision for me, because really it's like a 50-50 almost. But in the back of my head, there's always that, which one is more enticing? Which one is more juicy? And which one's going to have the biggest long-term potential? And I struggled with this decision because I like the idea of Google and the fact that Google is innovating from a software standpoint, number one, but also it is the go-to trusted resource for all things internet search-wise. They have some of the best search tools out there. They also own YouTube. YouTube is massive. Obviously, I create my channel, and that contributes to everything Google. And then I look at Amazon, and what Amazon's been able to do in a very short period of time has been nothing short of spectacular. I mean, they've taken over the delivering of package industry. They've made e-commerce really easy. Anybody can set up an Amazon store and now become an entrepreneur. And they continue to innovate moving forward with the use of drones. So the amount of growth that we're going to see from both of these companies in the next 5, 10, and 20 years moving forward makes sense for both of them, because both of them really have hit their niche, but they've also found a way to do it where they've become the pioneers in both of their industries. So as you can imagine, the back of my head is really just kind of going in all sorts of crazy directions as I think about what could be potentially for both of those companies. And it's put me in a position where I have to kind of, which one is really drawing me and calling me to say, hey, put your money in this. And this has been really tricky as I'm doing the research for both, because both companies make a lot of sense. Which one resonates with me? That's a whole nother ball game. So now the question becomes, okay, going with your heart, which one are you going to choose? And this is what took me the most time to decide. And one of the main things that stuck out to me during this whole what's calling me most process is, what project do I see that either one of these companies could get involved in that would just completely change the game and set them apart from everybody else and put them in a position where they are so far ahead of everybody else that they can't be touched, and their competition, even though is going to be there, is going to be so far behind that they don't stand a chance of catching up anytime soon. And so that was one thing that I thought about. But the other thing that I thought about is the continued innovation. Which one of these companies is going to continue innovating and continue being the pioneers moving forward? And this is where it got even more tricky because both of them are doing a really good job. However, in today's society, we're moving in a whole new direction from a technology standpoint and from things like innovation, software, data collection, all these little metrics that go on behind the scenes that we don't really think about as consumers, but it's things that are going to help push us in this new phase of evolution that we're getting into. And this is the biggest thing that stuck out to me is what represents that mostly. Because whatever represents that mostly is going to be the correct buy. And so I really spent a lot of time doing research on this because that correlation is what's ultimately going to dictate what happens to the stock in the long term. That's ultimately why I was looking to invest in one of these companies because they're big and they're going to continue to be some of the biggest companies in the world in the next 20 and 30 years. So this is a long-term buy. So how do they continue to innovate moving forward to make sure that that buy that I see now continues in an upward trajectory that will help hit those long-term goals that I have? And so after going back and forth with this research that I've done and thinking about what the future holds for these two companies, I started to hammer down and get more clear on which one I'm going to choose. So which one is it? I'm going to choose Tesla. And now you're probably saying to yourself, so let me get this right. You did all of this research on Google and Amazon. These companies are absolutely massive. They are the pioneers in innovation. They're leading the way. You're making YouTube videos, which further contributes to what would be your Google stock. And Amazon is only getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but you're choosing Tesla. That's correct.
That is correct.
I'm choosing Tesla. And here's the reasons why. First and foremost, when I look at Tesla, what I see is they've been able to accomplish something in a very short period of time that Google and Amazon have taken decades to accomplish. Think about, first and foremost, the valuation of Tesla. Tesla is valued at $1 trillion plus, and they're just getting started with this valuation. In my personal opinion, doing all the research that I've seen, and other people like Kathy Wood talking about Tesla, this company is, in my opinion, still extremely undervalued. When you think about the fact that we as a country and we as a society as a whole in the world, we're looking to go more EV, more renewable energy, and more solar based. When you think about that, the pioneers in that space are Tesla. They have cars that right now nobody can compete with. Yes, you have the American vehicles like Ford and GM, and then you have your overseas like XPeng and NIO. But at the end of the day, their innovation from a technology standpoint in the EV sector, they're nowhere close to what Tesla has to offer. Tesla has set themselves apart from the EV industry, and it's not even close. They own 50% of the EV industry, and they're not going to stop anytime soon. When you think about EV vehicles, the first vehicle that comes to mind is Tesla. And if we look at the world as a whole, we're only going to continue moving down this EV pathway. And as we move down this pathway, we're going to want technology that's been proven. And Tesla has proven over and over and over again that they have the technology to continue this upward trajectory and continue to set themselves apart in that space. And then the next thing I think about is data collection and how important that's going to be to our society moving forward. We're moving into a new digital age where a lot of the things that we're going to be doing on a day in, day out basis are going to be digital. So it's important for us to collect all the necessary information we need right now to help move us into this new age and make this digital era a very simplistic type era to live in. That way our day in, day out lives are very easy. Everything that we do is streamlined and simplistic. And when I think about data collection, I think Tesla is one of those companies that does data collection the best. And the reason why I say that is because Tesla, although a lot of people see it as an automotive manufacturer, which they are, they're also a massive data collection company. Think about this from an autonomous vehicle standpoint. What we're wanting to do moving forward is we're wanting to create a lot more autonomy in this country. So our robots want to be autonomous robots where they're replacing the everyday worker. So from a manufacturing standpoint, when robots are doing the same job as people, we need the data necessary to program those robots. And so Tesla is on the forefront of that, but also autonomous vehicles. Obviously, the idea of autonomous vehicles has really taken a center stage, if you will, for what's possible in our vehicles. And a lot of people want to see our vehicles be autonomous, where they're driving us to and from places. And we see this big time in companies like Waymo. Waymo have driverless vehicles. And so if this is an age that we're moving into, a lot of these auto manufacturing companies are going to want to create cars that are autonomous as well. And number one, where are they going to get that data from in order to make their autonomous vehicles better? They're going to have to get it from Tesla, because Tesla has been creating these autonomous vehicles for quite some time, and they've been collecting all of this data while creating this autonomy to make it really easy for them to be able to then turn around and sell that data to these other automotive companies, which number one makes it so they are ahead in the autonomous vehicle standpoint and sector. But number two, they're now also using that expertise that they have to then turn around and sell to other manufacturers, and then again, make a further profit for their company. But then lastly, the big thing that I think about is there is word of another stock split coming in Tesla pretty soon, within the next year or so. And it hasn't been announced yet, but that's also because the annual meeting has not taken place for the shareholders. So if the shareholders vote on another stock split, we could see another 5-to-1 Tesla stock split. But not only that, we could also see in that same voting at the annual meeting a dividend share as well, which would be huge for the stock altogether, because even though some people might feel like the stock is overvalued, if they decide to do another stock split and they decide to do a dividend share as well with their stocks, it's only going to entice more and more buying into Tesla as a company. So when I put all three of these things together, I think that's what calls me most. I think Tesla as a company has so much innovation. They've set themselves apart so far that I don't think any car company can catch them anytime soon. And when I think about where the world's going over the next decade, 2 decades, three decades, 4 decades, we're only going to see Tesla set themselves further and further and further apart in the EV sector, in the autonomous vehicle sector, and in the data collection sector. And so when you match all three of those up, you can really see the potential of what Tesla has to offer. And so for me, in looking at just those three things and looking at the amount of research I've done, when you compare side by side all three of those companies, I think that Tesla is going to have the biggest upside potential of all of them. and then you mix the fact that Tesla is more than likely going to do another stock split in the near future, and the fact that they're doing a dividend share as well if voted on by the shareholders, I think that that just takes Tesla and puts it far ahead of both Google and Amazon for which stock is best to buy. But that's just what I think moving forward. Obviously, you can invest in Google, Amazon, or Tesla, and neither one of those companies would steer you wrong. And I think that all three of them are fantastic investments to add to your portfolio. But keep in mind, what we talk about on this channel is having your own plan and doing what's going to best help you get where you want to go financially. So it's really up to you to do your research on all of these companies and go with your heart, go with your gut. Decide which one of these resonates with you in your portfolio and pull the trigger on it, because you still have time to participate in either one of the three stock splits that's going to take place. Because keep in mind, again, that Google is splitting early June, and then you have Amazon splitting in July, and then Tesla has not been announced for the stock split, but keep in mind that more than likely it's going to split in the next year or so. But comment down below and let me know which one of these three investments you're going to be adding to your portfolio, because again, you can't go wrong with any one of these three. And of course, if you did get value out of today's video, give it a big thumbs up. And then of course, if you have not subscribed to the channel, definitely do so. This is a channel that talks about finance news, that goes into specifics on how finances work so that you can better understand the finance game and set yourself up for success. And then ultimately, this is a channel, everything finance. So if that is something that interests you, you want to make sure that you are subscribed and that you have that bell notification on. Other than that, I hope you have a great rest of your day.